guys, I know today is April 15th, so let me get you a little. Oh my god, my head is kind of frizzy because I just woke up. So I'm gonna give you some Titanic facts, or the story of Titanic. So, of course, it's April 15th. The ship already sunk. It took about 2 hours, and of course, Carpathia and the other ships near the Titanic kept sending stuff to Cape Race, telling about, have you heard from Titanic? No, we haven't heard from him all night. Because, of course, at about around 2:08 or like 2 something, the wireless room was abandoned. So, yeah, that's kind of bad. So we're going to be talking about, of course, the stuff about Titanic, like, why did she sink, or why didn't Officer Murdoch not, like, shoot it head on with the iceberg? Or, more simply, if only they went down a little slower and they had binoculars to spot the bird. Well, it wouldn't be easy, due to second officer, I don't know his name, I forgot, but he was the guy that had the key to the binoculars in the lookout. So that's the reason why they couldn't get open the binoculars. Also, there's 4 lookouts. Like there's even special watch. I don't know. Like, watch the 1958 Titanic movie. And so James Cameron's thing is accurate. It's accurate. So, of course, the main question, why this struck the bird? Well, let me put it effectively, they didn't want it to struck the berg. The iceberg was just, like, in the movie it shows one iceberg, but there's actually multiple icebergs off the Titanic sank in the morning. So, of course, Titanic hit this special one on its trip. I'll tell you about it more. I'll tell you about more of Titanic on part 2. Bye. You're asking, why did Titanic hit the berg? Well, they didn't want to. They were not forced to, they just couldn't see it, because when it was that night, it was very dark. Like, if you adjust the brightness, what it actually looked like on that night, you wouldn't see the iceberg. You'll just see a little point of the iceberg, due to the iceberg was blocking. There's this phenomenon called a fake horizon, where hot and cold air make like a fake horizon, making it look like it's clear. It's kind of misled Titanic down to a demise. So, I know you guys keep blaming Captain Murdoch, but Captain Murdoch does not need to do anything. He was practically forced to go faster since they wanted James Ismay. He was called a coward for leaving the ship. Getting on the starboard bow, like on the starboard side of the Titanic, like in a collapsible, I think it was collapsible C. There's A and B. The collapsibles A and B are above the boat deck, like they're right next on top of the officers' quarters, right next to the first funnel. And they needed special equipment to get them down, but by that time the bow was completely underwater. So of course they couldn't keep. Also, if you're asking, why did the engineers went down with the ship? Well, mostly half of them, because even though they were released from their posts, half of them wanted to keep, they wanted to keep the lights on, for the wireless operators, including when the ship was about to break into 2. So, it's not mine.
Okay. That's your bus.
Titanic specific aspect, but it was not Captain Smith's fault. He was forced to light up the last boilers. Now, about the engineers who went down with the ship, they kept the power on, since mostly like the compartment, like the boiler room 1 and boiler room 2, when that they were still dry. They were still dry before the ship broke into 2 sections and sunk. So they were still dry, so they, of course, they kept the power on. Cause the lights ran on steam. So of course the reason that the lights went out was because I feel like the water reached those last 2 boilers, so they couldn't keep the lights on any longer. And of course the power, of course, went out, snapped, pieces, and he sunk to the bottom. So yeah, that's about the stuff about the engineers. Now about the iceberg itself, people been desperately trying to find the iceberg that sunk the ship after like a few hours or a few days after the disaster, or like, you know, in the morning or before too. People found the iceberg, what believed to be the iceberg Titanic hit, because it had like a little paint from the hull, from the red part of the Titanic, the anti-fouling paint. Of course, when Titanic sunk, when the stone was violently pulled under, I'm gonna show you right now. Just gotta hold my camera. So of course, right here, see, of course the ship went like this. Funnel fell. This is like the most accurate way. Also, there's this game on Roblox called Titanic SOS, which I had to break it to you, but it's actually very accurate. Like, it has a new sinking, and also the water physics. Like, you can go inside the grand staircase, and yeah, it's not even flooded until the grand staircase stone breaks. I like how they did that. Also, if you heard from Oceanline Designs, Mike Brady, he's my favorite, I would watch him, and his dog travels, Sam. They explain the sinking of the Titanic. So, I mean, I am a Titanic enthusiast by myself. So, I know what the ship looked like. Like, if only Titanic missed that berg, if only they missed the berg, it would have had survived. Or if it struck the iceberg, but it only grazed the hull, which that can happen. But Titanic sunk before World War I and World War II. Of course, Majestic was created, so was Olympic. Of course, the Majestic took the Olympics place as the biggest ship in the world. So, I'll sell you my Titanic model, but I don't actually have one, so I really want to get one. So I can show you where the breakup point was, because people thought it was like after the first funnel or after the 4th funnel, but it was actually like, in between. It was in between, like where the compass tower is. That's why you don't see the compass tower, because it got flattened or destroyed. So yeah, the ship is shrouded in mystery. So you're probably wondering, can we raise the wreck of the Titanic? Well, practically no, because she's already deteriorating. I mean, if we try to raise her, she'll just disintegrate into nothing due to, low oxygenated water currents. But the ship is in 2 sections, and we can't really raise it. The reason that we rolled the big piece is because it fell off the starboard side of the Titanic. Like when the ship hit the bottom, or it was near like the breakup, I think. So there's multiple pieces. I think the main piece is in Titanic Museum in Tennessee, while the other one is in here in Florida. In Orlando, I'm in Lakeland. So, in the Tiger Villa Hotel. So, course, when the ship went down, it created this massive, giant suction. Like when you jump into a pool, like all the water around you kind of like it tries to stop you, but you go down anyway. That creates like a little suction until you come back up, where the suction disappears. For Titanic, for a big metal body that's going on the water, it's very huge, and it created a giant water section. The Titanic was bigger than a person. It was the size of 3 football fields and taller than an 11-story building. So of course, Titanic, the ship will always be shrouded in mystery. But we did 3D scans of the ship. And don't worry, we will solve the mysteries of what they did in the last hours of the sinking, or the last 20 minutes. Due to senior operator Jack Phillips and junior operator David Bride. John Phillips, he died in the sinking, but he was a heroic man. Without him, they wouldn't have prepared the wireless set on the April 14th, the morning of April 14th, the second day at sea. If only they missed the ice, because thanks to him, 700 people survived. But if only they carried enough lifeboats. So we're going to be talking about why the ship sunk. And why. Because due to the ship was going down more and more level, was the Titanic, when it kept climbing higher and higher into the air, you could hear the metal buckling and breaking. Because Chandler Jonathan, when he was in the pantry, of course getting drunk on alcohol and stuff, he heard beams snapping, beams buckling, beams breaking. Because he heard, in his testimony, he said that he heard the ship, begin to buckle when he was in the pantry. And of course, as soon as he left, he went to he tried to go back to his cabin, too. He got drunk in his cabin. And he got drunk in the pantry until he heard beams snapping, beams buckling. He heard a lot of beams, snapping, straining, due to the ship's structure was not really made to hold, stern was not really made to do that. Of course, Charles Jonathan, when he heard the beams breaking, beams buckling and stuff, he said in his testimony that he heard the ship beginning to stress due to the engines, and the stern was not supported, which result in the ship breaking. And of course, where the dead funnel was, after expansion joint, of course it collapsed due to the breakup. Due to Titanic was not really made to withstand all that support due to the unsupported stern. And you're talking about why the Titanic not break in half is because the stern was, the engines were, I think the engines were replaced or something, because I don't know, because the engines that were used on Titanic must have been used on the Titanic. Because of course, Titanic, when it was sinking, I feel like it was supposed to break in half, but since it was leaning on its side, it kind of let the stern out of the water, but not too much, until the ship completely hit the bottom. Of course, Titanic sunk to the bottom of the ocean, but the Titanic also did. You don't have to go scuba dive if you want to go to the Titanic. It's only 400 feet below the surface. The ocean surface. Just go discover the Titanic.